Urban legends, the modern-day folklore, passed down from person to person, usually highlighting horrific, unlikely events with a twist ending told from a distant, yet seemingly reputable source. Yeah, it's a true story. It happened to my sister's best friend's cousin. Urban legends are relatively new, with the phrase gaining traction with the rise of media and the internet. The term urban legends became popular with 1981's publication of The Vanishing Hitchhiker, American Urban Legends and Their Meanings, a book by American folklorist Jan Harold Brunvand. Of course, modern-day urban legends snuck their way into horror films well before this. You have movies based on certain urban legends like When a Stranger Calls in 1979 and Alligator in 1980. But it wasn't until 1992 when we got a movie that focused on the idea of urban legends and what their impact on a community could be. This movie, of course, is Candyman. Candyman started as a short story written by the one and only Clive Barker titled The Forbidden. The Forbidden was in the later parts of the Books of Blood and was released in 1985. Many scholars have looked into The Forbidden and its connection to urban legends and thought Clive Barker had to have done research regarding these modern-day folk tales in order to capture it so well. But Clive was oblivious to urban legends and the ideas of them. The Forbidden stemmed from a conversation he had with his grandmother when he was roughly 4 years old. She told him to avoid public bathrooms, for grown men could do really bad things to young little boys. This fear grew and developed into The Forbidden. When Clive Barker was filming Nightbreed at Pinewood Studios, another director by the name of Bernard Rose was filming another movie at the same studio lot. Both cordially met for lunch, introduced themselves, and became good friends. Bernard later bought the Books of Blood in respect for his new friend and fell in love with the stories found within, specifically The Forbidden. When Bernard Rose approached Barker about adapting the short story to film, Barker had full trust in Rose. Barker saw Rose's artistic vision and played a hands-off approach. Barker signed away the rights and became executive producer for Candyman, a rare instance when signing away one of his stories turned out to be a major success. But I think I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's slow it down and talk about one of my childhood favorites. This is Candyman. The story revolves around grad student Helen and her best friend Bernadette researching urban myths. They stumble upon the myth of Candyman, which has been terrorizing lower income families in the Chicago area. If you say his name in the mirror 5 times, he will be summoned behind you and he will kill you. Both Helen and Bernadette want to find the origins of the urban legend, but also want to find the origins of the legend within the very community. As the legend goes, Candyman was a painter in the 1800s who fell in love with the daughter of a wealthy racist. When the town found out that Candyman had impregnated the woman, they freaked out and decided to put the law in their own hand and kill the Candyman. They cut off the painting hand and replaced it with a rusty hook. They slathered honeycomb all over him, and the beast stung him to death. His corpse was burned right where the poor neighborhood was eventually built. The deeper Helen digs, the worse things get. Candyman is such a phenomenal film that I don't want to spoil anything beyond that. Candyman is a classic horror film and one of the best from the early 90s. Performances are all top-notch. Tony Todd has cemented himself as one of the best slasher villains of all time and a true icon of the genre. Virginia Madsen is also phenomenal. Whenever she sees Candyman, she has this hypnotic glazed look, and it turns out that she was actually hypnotized during those scenes. Bernard Rose would hypnotize her every day before filming. These sessions did play a toll on Virginia, and after a long day of shooting, she forgot everything that happened that day. Direction by Bernard Rose is exquisite. He totally understands and gets Barker. Yes, Rose did change a lot about Barker's short story, like character names, races, and location, but at the root of it all, Rose held true. Barker has a way of making fantastical stories that deal more with the human condition rather than the fantastical events. Barker humanizes the experience in almost a romantic sense, and I think Rose holds true to that. The score also aids to this vision. Rose wanted Philip Glass to do the music, thinking they could never get him to do it, but they ended up getting Philip Glass to do it. And what we get isn't your typical horror flick score. It's romantic, sad, but beautiful and haunting. It's the icing on the cake. Candyman, much like Barker's Nightbreed, is somewhat of a sympathetic villain looking not for revenge, but instead for love. Candyman may not necessarily be the monster, but instead, how he was treated and how the myth continues is possibly the bigger villain. These are themes that I'm noticing a lot in Barker's work. Candyman was a huge success, so of course studios wanted more. They asked Rose to come up with a sequel. Rose wanted to make a spiritual successor of sorts about myths and legends and what they mean to people in a culture. Rose wanted to adapt The Midnight Meat Train, a short story found in Barker's Books of Blood anthology, and wanted to set it in London. Rose wanted to mix in elements of Jack the Ripper. Some of the movie would focus on Jack the Ripper in the 1880s, while the other parts of the movie would take place in present-day London, and the third act would focus on the Midnight Meat Train. Barker was hesitant about this as he thought the Midnight Meat Train could make a standalone feature. Studios hated the idea. They wanted their own Freddy or Jason, so they went their own route. Candyman spawned 2 direct sequels in the 90s and a sequel in 2021 that takes place directly after the first one, which was headed by Jordan Peele. I enjoyed Farewell to the Flesh immensely, and Day of the Dead is fine, neither compared to the original. Now, I haven't seen the 2021 requel, but from what I hear, it's pretty good. I'll have to check it out one of these days. Next in the Clive Barker timeline would be his last directed film, Lord of Illusions. It was his last attempt at directing after the failure of Nightbreed, and let's just say, it put his film career on hiatus for quite a bit. I've already covered Lord of Illusions many years ago, and while I cringe at my editing and performance, some parts still hold up. I don't want to rehash any old ground, so if you want to know my thoughts on Lord of Illusion, check out the video. Next week, I'm going to dive into some of the made-for-TV horror movies that Barker had a hand with, and after that, I'm going to dive into Barker's last attempt at turning his stories to the screen. You're not going to want to miss it. In the meantime, folks, stay spooky, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what I do and want to support the channel, please consider subscribing or by buying me a coffee in the description below. Any bit helps. Thank you, and take care.